Ever wonder what happened to all those wild and crazy trends from the 70s? From mood rings to pet rocks and those unforgettable bell-bottoms, the 1970s were full of fun fads that defined a generation. Let's take a groovy trip back in time and see what these trends were all about and where they are now. Get ready to relive some of the coolest and quirkiest parts of the 70s. But first, if you love 70s nostalgia, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe so we can continue to bring you amazing content. It really does help the channel. Platform shoes. Platform shoes were a big deal in the 1970s, making a strong fashion statement. They weren't new back then, but they got really popular again. These shoes had thick soles and came in many styles, from big chunky heels to tall skinny ones. Everyone liked them, both guys and girls, and they were a huge part of the 70s fashion vibe. People often wore them with flared pants and flashy disco outfits. Celebrities and regular folks loved them a lot. They showed off the wild and fun fashion trends of the 70s, making them a memorable part of that decade's style. Custom vans. Custom vans of the 1970s were more than just vehicles. They were a lifestyle statement embodying the era's spirit of freedom and creativity. Originating from the hot rod culture, these vans were transformed into mobile party hubs, complete with beds, refrigerators, and custom interiors, showcasing the era's distinctive design trends. The exteriors featured unique modifications, custom paint jobs, and striking graphics, making each van a personalized expression of its owner. Popular among the youth, these vans symbolized a portable, fun-filled lifestyle and remain a nostalgic emblem of 70s culture and the era's emphasis on individuality and self-expression. CB radio. CB radios were essentially the go-to communication tool for people traveling, particularly for those driving trucks. Imagine them as the vintage version of walkie-talkies, but much more awesome. These devices were a big deal for truck drivers and other motorists. They'd use them for a whole bunch of reasons while they were on the move. For instance, they'd chat about where to get gas for a good price, or give each other a heads up about police officers lurking with speed radars. This was how they stayed in touch and made those endless hours on the road feel a little less solitary. For those who spent most of their time cruising down endless highways day and night, CB radios weren't just cool gadgets, they were an essential part of their journey, a true lifeline. The Hustle Dance. Remember that catchy tune, The Hustle by Van McCoy? Well, that song kicked off a massive dance craze in 1975. Everyone was doing the hustle in discos across the world. It was more than just a dance, it was like the anthem of the disco era. You've probably seen it in old movies with people lined up and moving to the beat in the most groovy way. The most famous movie showing the hustle? Saturday Night Fever. This dance was everywhere. And it wasn't just a few steps, it was a whole vibe that defined the fun and free spirit of the 70s disco scene. Leisure suits. Oh, leisure suits. These were the ultimate fashion statement in the 70s. Imagine a jacket and pants made to match perfectly, usually in really bright colors or wild patterns. These suits were a big deal in the disco world. You'd see folks wearing them at dance clubs, looking all flashy and cool. But as time went on, people started seeing leisure suits as kind of tacky. They went from being the coolest thing you could wear to a bit of a fashion joke. Still, back in their heyday, leisure suits were the symbol of 70s style, all about standing out and having fun. Paper fortune tellers. Before everyone had video games or smartphones, kids had to get creative for fun. One of the coolest things to do was making paper fortune tellers. You know, those little origami things that you'd manipulate with your fingers to tell fortunes. They were super popular in schoolyards. Kids would write different fortunes inside them and then playfully predict each other's future. It was a simple, fun way to pass the time, and pretty much every kid knew how to make one. These paper fortune tellers were like a glimpse into the innocent, imaginative world of 70s childhood. 8-track cassettes. Back in the 70s, if you wanted to jam out to your favorite tunes on the go, 8-track cassettes were the thing to have. These were like the ancestors of iPods or Spotify. They were pretty bulky, kind of like a chunky sandwich, but they let you play music in your car or at home, which was pretty awesome back then. But as with all tech stuff, something better came along, and 8 tracks got left behind. Cassettes and CDs showed up and were way easier to carry around and had better sound. Still, for a while there, 8-tracks were the coolest way to take your music with you. Streaking. So, streaking was this wild fad in the 70s where people literally ran around naked in public. Yeah, you heard that right. It wasn't just some random thing a few people did, it was a huge craze. People would streak through streets, parks, and even big events that were on TV. Imagine watching a big sports game or an awards show, and suddenly there's someone sprinting by in their birthday suit. It was a shocker for sure, but also kind of funny. Streaking was one of those things that showed just how free-spirited and daring the 70s were. The pet rock. Now, the pet rock was probably one of the funniest and weirdest fads of the 70s. Some clever guy named Gary Dahl came up with the idea to sell rocks as pets. Yes, just regular old rocks. But the crazy part? It worked. He put these rocks in nice little boxes, added a funny instruction manual on how to care for your rock, and boom, people went nuts for them. It was a huge hit. Gary made a ton of money off these pet rocks. It just goes to show that in the 70s, with the right idea and some funny marketing, you could sell pretty much anything, even a rock. Zany local TV commercials. Oh man, the 70s had some of the wackiest TV ads you could imagine. Local businesses would make these super funny and sometimes totally bonkers commercials. Picture this. You're watching TV and suddenly there's this guy dressed up in a crazy costume, shouting about car deals or selling furniture, and acting all kinds of silly. These ads were everywhere, and they were so out there you couldn't help but laugh, or sometimes cringe. It was like every local ad was trying to out-crazy the next. These commercials were a huge part of TV back then, showing off just how creative and wild advertisers could get. Macrame plant hangers. In the 70s, if you walked into someone's house, you'd probably see macrame plant hangers. These were like the coolest home decor items. Made from knotted cords or strings, they were perfect for hanging plants. People loved them. You'd see them in all different sizes and styles, hanging in living rooms and bedrooms, holding all sorts of plants. Macrame hangers were more than just plant holders. They were like works of art, adding a bit of nature and craftiness to any room. They were so popular that pretty much everyone who was into decorating their place had at least one. Clackers. Clackers were this super popular toy in the 70s. Imagine two plastic balls attached to a string, and when you moved the string up and down, the balls would clack together really fast. Sounds fun, right? Well, they were, but they were also kind of dangerous. Those balls could smash together super hard, and sometimes they'd even break apart, sending bits flying everywhere. Because of this, they ended up getting banned. It was a bummer for kids who loved playing with them, but those things could really hurt you. Clackers were one of those toys that everyone remembers, either for the fun or the occasional ouch. Mood rings. Let's talk about mood rings, a totally far-out fad from the 70s. These little rings were like your own personal mood detectors. They had this special liquid crystal inside that changed colors depending on the temperature of your hand. So, if you were feeling chill, it might turn blue, and if you were all worked up, it might go red. People were super into checking their rings to see what mood they were in. It was kind of like a fun, mystical accessory, and everyone wanted one. Mood rings were a huge hit and a perfect example of the quirky, experimental vibe of the 70s. Exploring the fads of the 70s. Did this bring back some far-out memories? Hit the like button and subscribe for more fun trips through the decades. Which 70s fad did you think was the most out of sight? Drop a comment and let us know. Stay funky, everyone!